In this lesson, we're going to learn all about CPR. CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's a lot of big words, but basically it's about what we do with somebody who is a non-breathing casualty, and it's how to effectively press on the chest to maintain their blood pressure and to breathe into them so we can keep oxygen going to the brain. We're going to learn a bit more detail about that just now. So we've conducted our primary survey. We've moved the casualty to a safe area and they're not breathing. So it's really important that we sent somebody to go and get help. And now we're going to start our CPR. CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Effectively what it is pressing on the chest and breathing into the casualty. Now, if this was somebody who had just collapsed on the beach, perhaps you've arrived on the beach and it's somebody walking their dog and they've collapsed, the chances are that the problem is probably going to be a heart attack. And so the problem is the heart, which is the pump, and not the breathing. So in that situation in CPR, we would start by doing 30 compressions. But in this situation, the casualty's been recovered from the water. So the problem is probably a respiratory problem. So that means that actually their blood may not have sufficient levels of oxygen in it. So we're going to start by doing 5 rescue breaths. 1, to put oxygen into the blood, but 2, depending on what's wrong with them, to help to reinflate the lungs again so that the anastomy allows the oxygen to go into the blood and us to pump that blood, maintain the pressure to get it up to the brain. The first thing we need to do is remove the buoyancy aid, because it's really difficult to maintain good quality CPR with such a soft garment on them. So we're going to remove the buoyancy aid. And we're going to start with our 5 rescue breaths. Now, if this is somebody who's been recovered from the water, if CPR is successful, one of the first things that may well happen is they may vomit. So it's quite good to have a barrier between us and the casualty. We've got a couple of options. One of the things that comes in nearly all first aid kits is a face shield, which is a piece of plastic and simply goes over the face of the casualty. Some of them have a gauze, like this one. Some of them have a one-way valve. So just make sure you put it the right way round. The easiest way to do that is make sure you can read the writing that's on the sheet. We'll place it over the mouth and nose, pinch the nose, extend the airway, and then get a seal around the gauze to breathe into the casualty. Alternatively, we can use a resuscitation mask, and this is by far my preferred option. It's easier to use and it gives a little bit more of a protection between you and the casualty. There's different shapes and sizes, but they all kind of work the same way. They're normally inverted like this, so when you take them out of the box, you need to pop them out so that the valve is sticking out the top. This valve will allow air to go down into the casualty, but there's a diaphragm to stop any of the contents from the casualty coming up to cause us problems. We're simply going to place it over the mouth and nose. From here, there's 2 methods that we can use, but on my own, it's easiest to just make 2 triangles with my fingers, firmly clamp the mask across the face, the mouth and nose of the casualty, extend the airway, and then we're going to give them 5 rescue breaths. We'll leave the mask in place and we'll give them 30 compressions in the middle of the chest. It should be hard and fast, a depth of about 6 to 8 centimeters and a rate of about 100 to 120 a minute. Interlock your fingers, lift them up nice and high. We're using this part of our hand here on the sternum, which is this flat bone on the chest here. Arms nice and straight, shoulders above your wrists, and press down as if you're pressing into the sand below the casualty. Then we're going to do our 2 breaths. When you're giving your breaths, you'll notice that the chest is rising and falling. If you don't see the chest rising, then make sure the airway is fully extended, that you've got your head on the casualty all the way back. On the next 2 breaths, notice that I turn my head to the side, so I take fresh air in each time I breathe into the casualty. We're going to continue doing our CPR until either the signs of life from the casualty, a healthcare professional tells me to stop, or I become too exhausted to continue. But if there's any members of the group that can come and take over, they can do the CPR. If they've never used a manakin before and practiced it, get them just to do the compressions, to give me a couple of minutes rest before I come back on again. It's important that we maintain good quality CPR. So casualty that's been recovered from the water and requires CPR may vomit during the CPR. Vomiting is a good sign. It's an active process, so it's a sign of that they may be recovering. But if they're on their back, that water or vomit is going to cause an airway obstruction. So we need to deal with it urgently and effectively. So if I'm doing my CPR and my casualty starts to vomit, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hand that's towards the legs in the casualty, place my hand on the face and the chin to grip them firmly, forearm along the sternum, other hand behind the shoulder, and I'm going to roll her firmly onto the side. As I do so, I'm supporting the head so it doesn't bash into any rocks or knock her head on anything. I'm going to support her head whilst, and she may be retching, so support the head in that position. When she's finished vomiting, I'm going to roll her back onto her back. Now the situation, this casualty has changed. So I effectively just go back to the start and start my primary survey again. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's it, Fiona. Can you hear me? Open your eyes for me. Can you hear me? Open your eyes. Can you hear me? Just going to look inside your mouth now. Going to check for your breathing for 10 seconds. That's amazing, mate. You're breathing nicely. If you can hear me, just open up your eyes for me. I'm just going to put you into the recovery position. So if you can hear me, just open your eyes. So I've done my primary survey and my casualty is face down and she's not breathing. So whilst I can do my primary survey like that, I can't do CPR. So first of all, I've made sure that somebody's gone to get help. And I now very quickly and effectively need to turn the casualty from face down, prone position, to face up, supine position. Now, a casualty who is actually unconscious and an adult is very difficult to move. So we need a technique to roll them over. If I've got other people, members of my group, I'm going to help them, get them to help me turn her over. But if I'm on my own, I need a technique to roll them from face down to face up. So you'll notice I've moved to the back of Fiona's head, and we always roll the casualty towards the back of their head. The only limb that's in the way is her arm that's on this side here. So I'm carefully going to lift the arm up out of the way. From here then, I'm going to take the wrist and hold it against the hip. Going to support the head, and in one swift movement, I'm going to roll her onto her back. You'll notice that I have the head supported all of the way over. She's now on her back and we're in a position where we can start our CPR. Simon! Simon! Simon, open your eyes. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Help, help! Help, help! All right, we're going to get you a beach, mate. Simon, can you hear me? Open your eyes. I've just recovered him from the water and I need to go back to do my primary survey. It's hard to see, get an extended airway with his helmet on, so I need to get that out of the way. Checking the airway, head tilt, chin lift. It's hard to see if he's breathing. I'm going to slide my hand under his buoyancy and just going to move the clip so it's a bit easier to get to. Can you hear me? Open your eyes. He's not breathing, so I need to get some help. Channel 16. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Sea Kayak 1, Sea Kayak 1, Sea Kayak 1. We're on Portreath Beach in Cornwall. We have a single casualty, non-breathing. Mayday. I can't do CPR with this buoyancy on, so I need to get it out of the way. Okay, he's been in the water, so I'm going to do 5 rescue breaths. And now my 30 compressions in the middle of the chest, a rate of about 100 to 120 a minute. That's it, cough it up, mate. He's vomiting now, which is a good sign. It's an active sign that he's coming round. Hello, can you hear me? Open your eyes. I've rolled him over so that any of the vomit and fluid can escape. Can you hear me, Simon? Open your eyes. Because his status has changed, I need to redo my primary survey. Hello, open your eyes. Checking your airway. Airway's clear, head tilt, chin lift. Checking for breathing. Yes, mate, that's it, brilliant. Okay, if you can hear me, just open your eyes, say hello. So we now have a casualty who's unresponsive, but at least he's breathing. We need to get him into the recovery position using natural drainage, and then we'll package him up to keep him nice and warm. Well done, mate. I'm facing him towards the water so that the natural drainage will let any fluid drain away from him. Going to get him covered up, keep him nice and warm, and I'm going to keep on checking, see if he's responsive, either verbally or physical response, and just keep monitoring him. It's vitally important that we get practical experience applying these skills of CPR. You can do that at any approved training provider using a resuscitation manakin, which will simulate the process of giving CPR. When you're ready, we're going to move on to the second outcome, which is an unconscious casualty who is breathing normally.